The Premier, Colin Barnett, was a vocal critic of the Commonwealth's Malaysia deal, which fell over this week. But he's now concerned the immigration policy void will be an even greater headache for WA. Mr Barnett already has his hands full on local issues, particularly the makeup of his cabinet in the lead up to the next election. He joined me in the studio earlier. Colin Barnett, welcome to 7:30.
Yes, good evening, Eliza.
Now, what does this failed Malaysia deal mean for WA?
Well, it's probable that there will be more asylum seekers coming now. I'm sure the smugglers will start their activities. If that is the case, it will mean more people in detention in Western Australia. And at present, Western Australia is accommodating about a third of the asylum seekers on the Australian mainland. So we could expect more people into the Curtin base and probably into the northern base when that's built.
There was always that, assertion or promise from the federal government that more people wouldn't go to Northern, and you've obviously been quite outspoken on that. You think that's just a fait accompli now?
Well, I'm still hoping it doesn't grow beyond 600, and my concern there is that it will be primarily single men, and I think that's just a recipe for disaster, having a large number of single men in a confined environment.
Now, you were also equally outspoken on the fact that unaccompanied children shouldn't go overseas on their own. Were you keen to get some more compassionate Conservative voices on the record on this issue?
Well, I thought someone had to speak out, and to me it was a shameless position for Australia to be contemplating sending children, including very young children, to a third nation in Malaysia, and for those children to be unaccompanied for. I don't think a country like Australia, a prosperous first world nation, should do that. I think it was a policy that just lacked humanitarian principle. What
about the federal opposition's commentary on this issue, though? I mean, would you like to hear some more of that sentiment coming from them, particularly Tony Abbott?
Yes, I think there's room for compassion here, although we do have to have a firm and consistent policy on border protection. And for all the criticisms of the days, maybe John Howard had it right.
Premier, what about the political debate more broadly? Has it become particularly nasty in Canberra of late?
Well, it's probably more of a bear pit, and I think that's true of federal and state politics. But I don't think apart from that it has changed much. People are more disorderly and interrupt and interject more often, but I don't think it's much different than when I first came into politics.
Premier, on local issues, is it your responsibility to overhaul FISA, or is it Rob Johnson's?
Well, as Minister for Public Sector Management, which I am, it is my responsibility in terms of changing the legislation and the like. But obviously Rob, as the Minister responsible, will also be involved, and indeed we'll do this together.
Right, so does he have your full support as Emergency Services Minister?
Yes, he does, and every minister has my support, and that will continue.
Why does he have your full support?
Well, look, Rob's the Minister, and myself as Premier, he as Minister, we accept a broad political and administrative responsibility for anything that happens within government.
But he didn't take responsibility, did he, on that crucial press conference?
Well, perhaps he may have interpreted it differently, but look, I accept responsibility as Premier, that's the main thing, and responsibility means that we must now act upon that report. We have accepted the recommendations made by Mick Kelty.
I'm just wondering why Rob Johnson gets so many chances, because he didn't get support for the Stop and Search Bill last year, and he also failed on that opportunity to take responsibility for FISA's shortcomings. So is there something we don't know? Why, as he as a Minister, gets so many chances?
Well, I have confidence and support all ministers. That's one of my jobs as Premier. And Rob Johnson was not culpable in any sense for the fire, but what came out of the fire was some messages, some recommendations about longer-term reform, and we are doing that and acting immediately. With respect to stop and search powers, look, that was something that was recommended to Rob and to the government. It wasn't something that we went to the election campaign on, and look, we accepted that there was a lot of opposition to that, so changed our mind and we withdrew it.
But how long will you as Premier continue to wear a minister that keeps causing you so much embarrassment?
Oh, look, I think that's a little unfair, and Rob Johnson's got some difficult portfolios, emergency services, police, Every weekend there is violence, unfortunately, in our city. Every week he has to deal with issues of antisocial behaviour and the like. And I think he does a good job, and he takes a very tough line on law and order, on antisocial behaviour, and particularly on drugs. Now, when you take a tough line like that, you are going to get people in the community that criticise, ridicule, whatever else.
All right, do you think that he that other ministers in your cabinet feel the same way? Because, for instance, this week in Parliament there was a debate over his management, and nobody other than Rob Johnson spoke in defence of himself.
Look, I think that was a peculiarity of the voting and debating rules of the House. There's been a number of questions asked of me, there's been debates in the Parliament, and people have been supportive of Rob. And one thing about a cabinet, it's a bit like a sporting team. When one person comes under pressure, the others have got to gather around and support. And, you know, it was fire and emergencies in the last couple of weeks. There could be an issue in anyone's portfolio at any time. That's what government is about. Every day is different. Every day there are new issues.
Now, under the changes that you have supported within the Kelty report, there'd be that new commissioner who would report to the minister.
Yes. That
sees Rob Johnson getting more power. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I am. And one of the weaknesses was that the head of FISA was reporting to a board made up of various representative groups rather than directly to the Minister and therefore directly to the Premier and Cabinet.
So you're not going to change your Cabinet in the lead up to the next election?
Oh, look, I don't rule out that there might be some minor change. Things change in politics, and I don't know yet at this stage who in the Cabinet is going to continue on and seek re-election. All of those things come up, and so people will make up their minds, and I'll talk to every Minister, every Member of Parliament before the end of the year. So there may be a change, but there's not going to be any general Cabinet reshuffle.
Right. Just on that point, your Education Minister, Liz Constable, has said that she won't be going to the next election. Does that rule her out?
No, and I haven't even had a chat to Liz about that. But she's made it clear, and good on her. She's been very upfront and made it clear that she won't stand again. But Liz has been and is an outstanding Education Minister. The independent public schools program that she has instituted has revolutionised education in Western Australia and is now being followed as a model by other states and the federal government.
OK, Premier, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Eliza, and best wishes to you.
Thank you.